Tonight, on First at 9 this Tuesday, the 23rd of September 2025. Compensation denial. Express Feeders refuses to pay $1 billion compensation ordered for the 2021 Express Pearl disaster. Narcotics seizure. Authorities identify dealer behind the 700-kilogram drug consignment valued at over 9.8 billion rupees. Positive trajectory. Sri Lanka's export sector demonstrates strong growth and resilience during the first 8 months of 2025. Global mission. President Anura Dissanayake to address the 80th United Nations General Assembly on Thursday.
Kalin baby soap rupial 90කට. Kalin baby podi හැමෝටමයි.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening, you're joining First at 9, brought to you by Sri Lanka's premium news provider, Derana. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. In your top story this evening, Express Feeders Shipping Company has refused to pay the $1 billion compensation payment ordered for the environmental and economic damage caused by the 2021 Express Pearl ship fire, the worst environmental disaster in Sri Lankan history. In an interview, Express Feeders CEO Shumel Yoskovitz stated that the compensation amount far exceeds established maritime conventions.
Today marks the deadline for the payment of the first installment of compensation related to the Express Pearl disaster. The Singapore-registered vessel caught fire on May 19, 2021, approximately 9.5 nautical miles from the port of Colombo, resulting in the largest marine environmental disaster in Sri Lankan history. Following the tragedy, 4 fundamental rights petitions were filed by Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, the Centre for Environmental Justice and the affected fishing community. On July 24 this year, a 5-judge Supreme Court bench led by then Chief Justice Murthy Fernando ordered Express Feeders, the vessel's parent company, and its Sri Lankan agents to pay $1 billion in damages to the Sri Lankan Treasury. The court ruled that the first installment of $250 million must be paid today, with the full compensation to be settled within 1 year. In an interview with AFP, Express Feeders Chief Executive Officer Shumel Yoskovitz stated that the company refuses to pay the $1 billion compensation mandated by the Sri Lankan Supreme Court. We are not paying because the whole base of the maritime trade is based on the limitation of liability. This judgment undermines this limitation of liability, he told AFP. Any payment towards the judgment could set a dangerous precedent for how maritime incidents will be resolved in the future, he said. So far, the company has already spent $170 million on removing the ship's wreckage. Yoskovitz emphasized that compensation should be determined and paid only after calculating the total final amount in accordance with relevant maritime laws and conventions. However, the United Nations office in Sri Lanka, issuing a statement on X, described the Supreme Court's verdict as a significant step towards justice in the Express Pearl incident. The UN emphasized that all stakeholders must adhere to the polluter pays principle as established under the law of the sea and relevant international conventions. Meanwhile, Cabinet spokesperson Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa stated that the Attorney General would be consulted on the government's future course of action.
ඔයාගේ හීන ලන්තයට අපිත් එක්ක යන්න අදම සනස ලයිෆ් එක ඉන්ෂුවර් වෙන්න.
Sri Lanka plans to sign an extradition agreement with the Philippines with the aim of facilitating the return of offenders for rehabilitation and reintegration into society. During the cabinet briefing today, Cabinet spokesperson Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa said the government is also working to reach similar agreements with Middle Eastern nations. The Cabinet spokesperson also addressed recent discourse regarding ministers' assets and tax compliance.
It has been proposed to sign an agreement between Sri Lanka and the Republic of the Philippines on the extradition of convicts. Through this agreement, prisoners will be given the opportunity to return to their homeland for social rehabilitation and reintegration into society. Accordingly, the Cabinet of Ministers has approved the proposal to sign and ratify the agreement.
පිලිපීනියත් එක්ක සහයෝගිතා ගිවිසුමක් අත්සන් කරා කියලා කියනවා මේ අත්‍යවශ්‍ය පුද්ගලයන් ගෙන්වා ගන්න දඬුවම් අවශ්‍ය කරන පුද්ගලයන් ගෙන්වා ගන්න. අතරම මේ වෙනකොට ලංකාව ජනතාවට අවශ්‍ය කරන බොහෝම පාතාල ක්‍රියාකරුවන් ඉන්නවයි කියන්නේ මැද පෙරදිග රටවල් වල විශේෂයෙන්ම දුබායි රාජ්‍ය තමයි ගොඩක් අය රැඳිලා ඉන්නවයි කියන්නේ. අවධානය යොමු කරලා තියෙනවද මේ දුබායි රාජ්‍ය වගේ මේ වගේ ගිවිසුමක් ඇති කරගන්න?
Yes, we have focused on that. At this stage, I am unable to disclose the countries with which discussions are ongoing. However, I can confirm that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is engaging with these nations to ensure that our laws are enforced against such criminals.
මහර ඇමතිවරුන්ගේ වත්කම් සම්බන්ධව මේ දිනවල ගොඩක් කතා වෙනවා. විශේෂයෙන් වසන්ත සමරසිංහ ඇමතිවරයාගේ මිලියන 275ක විතර වත්කම් තිබ්බත් දේශීය ආදායම් දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ ඔහු බදු ලිපි ගුණාවක් විවෘත කළා නැහැ කියලා විපක්ෂය චෝදනා කරනවා. දැන් මේ විදිහට බදු ලිපි ගුණාවක් අවුරුදු 20 ගානක් තිස්සේ විවෘත නොකිරීම බදු වංචාවක් යටතට ගෙන්නවනේ.
වසන්ත සමරසිංහ මහත්මයාට ක්‍රිප්ටෝකරන්සි ඔහු භාවිතා කරලා තියෙනවා, උපයලා තියෙනවා කියලා සඳහන් වෙනවා. ඔහු කියනවා ඔහුගේ පුතාත් එක්ක තමයි ඒක කරේ කියලා. එතකොට පුතා කරපු එකක් ඔහුගේ ගිණුමට ආවේ කොහොමද කියන ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. මහා බැංකුව විසින් ලංකාවේ මුදල් ඒකකයක් ඇටියට ඒක පිළිගන්නේ නැහැ කියලා තියෙනවා.
ඒ සියලු වත්කම්
All assets have been legally acquired. Nothing is illegal. If anyone has doubts, they are free to pursue legal action. Every procedure, including the opening of tax files and obtaining TIN numbers, has been followed in accordance with the law.
ගොඩක් ප්‍රකාශ අසම්පූර්ණයි. විශේෂයෙන්ම එරංග ගුණසේකර නියෝජ්‍ය ඇමතුමාගේ වත්කම් වල කිසිදු වටිනාකමක් සටහන් කරලා තිබුණේ නැහැ. එතුමාගේ වැටුප හෝ එතුමාගේ පවුලේ තව සමාජිකයෙක් ඉන්නවා කියලා සටහන් කරලා තිබුණා. එතකොට ඒ වැටුප හෝ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි හිතමු ඉඩමක වගේ දෙයක වටිනාකම නොදැනී ඉන්න ඉඩක් තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් වැටුප වගේ දෙයකවත් කිසිදු වටිනාකමක් ඔහුගේ වත්කම් බැරකම් ප්‍රකාශයේ සටහන් වෙලා තිබුණේ නැහැ. ඒතර ඔබතුමා ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් මොකද කියන්නේ?
සමහර අඩුපාඩුකම් තියෙන්න පුළුවන්.
These may be shortcomings in valuations or technical details which can be corrected. However, the assets of all ministers have been recorded. If there are errors, they will be rectified. Furthermore, we will ensure that all due taxes are paid. In fact, we welcome more tax revenue as it enables us to provide greater benefits to the public. If anyone has evaded taxes, measures will be taken to recover those payments retroactively.
Sri Lanka is set to develop a government super app to make all public services accessible online. Meanwhile, Cabinet approval was granted to submit the Microfinance and Credit Regulation draft bill to Parliament. With that, here's more on these and other key decisions taken during this week's Cabinet meeting. Sri Lanka is set to develop a government super app making all public services accessible online via a single mobile and web application. The project will be implemented in 2 stages at a cost of 500 million rupees within 2025 and 2026. Meanwhile, the Microfinance and Credit Regulation draft bill is scheduled to be published in the Government Gazette and submitted to Parliament for concurrence. The bill aims to address deficiencies in the Microfinance Act No. 6 of 2016 to establish a broad regulatory framework for the microfinance industry. In another policy initiative, Cabinet approved the National Policy on Senior Citizens, drafted under the theme A Respectful Senior Citizen, a Meaningful Retirement. The national policy aims to promote and protect the welfare and rights of citizens over the age of 60 who are projected to make up 24.8% of the population by 2052. On the diplomatic front, Sri Lanka will sign a Memorandum of Understanding on Agricultural Cooperation with the Republic of Turkey. On the education front, 2 Sri Lankan universities will enter MOUs with foreign universities. Accordingly, the University of Kalaniya will link agreements with the Peleski State University of Belarus and the Vladimir State University of Russia, while the Department of Polymer Science of the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura will enter an agreement with the Petroleum and Petrochemical College of the Chulalongkorn University of Thailand. Meanwhile, several stalled construction projects at universities are to resume on a priority basis, with funds being allocated from the 2026, 2027 and 2028 budgets. The projects will be implemented at the universities of Ruhuna, Rajarata, Sabaragamuwa, Wayamba, Sri Jayawardhanapura and the Trincomalee campus of the Eastern University of Sri Lanka. Similarly, stalled construction projects implemented under the Nearest School is the Best School initiative will also resume, with completion scheduled for 2025, 2026 and 2027 on a priority basis. Meanwhile, a consolidated water supply project will be implemented in Eppavala, Giribava, Rajanganaya and Notchiagama from 2026 to 2029, aiming to provide a solution to the spread of chronic kidney disease in these areas.
හොඳම ෆෝන් එකක් ගන්න. ළඟම බාන්ස් එකට යන්න.
President Anura Dissanayake is scheduled to address the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York this Thursday. The president departed for the United States late yesterday, accompanied by Foreign Minister Vijitha Herath. President Anura Dissanayake departed for the United States last evening to attend the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly. President Dissanayake is scheduled to address the Assembly at 12:45 a.m. in Sri Lankan time this Thursday. The President is set to hold bilateral discussions with the Secretary General of the United Nations and several world leaders on the sidelines of the summit. He is also expected to meet the Sri Lankan expatriate community in the United States. The President is accompanied by Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism Vijitha Herath. 4 acting ministers have been appointed to oversee ministerial duties in the absence of President Dissanayake and Foreign Minister Herath. Thereby, Minister of Labour and Deputy Minister of Economic Development Professor Anil Jayantha Fernando was appointed the acting Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Deputy Minister of Digital Economy Eranga Weeraratne was appointed the acting Minister of Digital Economy. Deputy Minister of Defence Aruna Jayasekara was appointed the acting Minister of Defence, and Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Employment Arun Hemachandra was named acting Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism. With the appointment of Deputy Minister Aruna Jayasekara as the acting Minister of Defence in the absence of President Anura Dissanayake, the opposition's no confidence motion against the Deputy Minister once again became a contentious topic in Parliament today. The ongoing CEB trade union action and narcotic raids were also discussed today in the legislature.
Honourable Speaker, the President is overseas at the moment. The President's office announced the appointment of Deputy Ministers as acting Ministers of 3 ministries under the President's purview. The Deputy Minister of Defence has been appointed acting Minister of the Ministry once again. When we submitted a no-confidence motion regarding the matter, you rejected it, claiming Deputy Ministers do not hold any power. We would like to know whether you accept the fact that our no-confidence motion was valid at least now. Honourable Member, I provided you an opportunity to raise your concerns regarding this. I am sure that I told you I will provide details on the matter at that time. We will meet the relevant ministerial committee and hold discussions accordingly.
එතුමාට විරුද්ධව විශ්වාස භංගයක් ඉදිරිපත් වුණාම විනාඩියක් මට විනාඩියක් අවස්ථාව දෙන්න. වින්දිතීන් ඉල්ලන්නේ පාස්කු පරීක්ෂණය පිළිබඳව සාධාරණ පරීක්ෂණයක්. කොයිතරම් දුර මේ විනාඩියක් පොඩ විනාඩියක් ඉවර කරන්න දෙන්න. ඒ නිසා ඔබතුමන්ලා පියවරක් ගන්නට ඕන ඒ වින්දිතීන්ට ඒ විශ්වාසය ඒ ක්‍රෙඩිබිලිටි එක ඒක ලබා දෙන්න විවාදයේ සම්බන්ධයෙන්
I cannot let this dialogue continue. You said you will meet me to discuss this matter at noon. I will present a detailed report tomorrow. There is unrest among CEB employees. They have initiated trade union action based on 21 demands. Some of these demands have already been fulfilled through the Act. Those who oppose joining the 5 entities can voluntarily retire. Through the 15th demand, they have presented a formula requesting that the 5 million rupee compensation threshold be increased to 1.5 million. Following necessary calculations, it becomes evident that implementing their formula would incur an additional 200 billion rupees in expenses. The burden of this additional expense would have to be passed down to the innocent public. There were 6,000 personnel in manpower. All 6,000 were made permanent employees. It was the appointments provided by our government which were confirmed. Trade union leader Ranjan Jalal collected 5,000 to 10,000 rupees from everyone. To this day, those who paid are requesting their money back. There is no point in making speeches without paying attention to this issue. The future of this country's children must be spoken of. The discovery of 705 kilograms of narcotics in a day is a matter of great concern. However, other relevant topics are being discussed to deviate attention from this pressing issue. You came to power promising to establish a thriving nation. Rumors of how 150 members are thriving instead of the general public have been circulating lately. How they became billionaires during the 70 years curse remain a mystery. The Electricity Act was discussed. There's no point in accusing us. It is you who made claims of sacrificing anything to repeal the act. This is why CEB employees are disappointed. The main reason for this disappointment is being deceived. You can't play the same game you played back in 1988 and 1989. I saw them making statements to the media. When they are questioned, they claim such questions cannot be asked. The drug menace has re-entered discussions within society as a result of recent raid. It is because of the seizure of large consignments of narcotic substances. We believe that all details in this regard will be revealed in the future. We will also look into whether there is a connection between this panic and those discoveries. If an NPP government were not appointed, crystal methamphetamine would have been sold openly at the Tangol Fair.
The Supreme Court today sentenced the Controller General of Immigration and Emigration, Harsha Ilukpitiya, to 2 years of imprisonment after being found guilty of contempt of court. Meanwhile, the petitioners of the action filed before Sri Lanka's apex court called for the immediate submission of the forensic audit report detailing the losses incurred as a result of the e-visa scam.
MP Rauf Hakim along with former MPs Patali Champika Ranawaka and M.A. Sumandiran filed fundamental rights petition before the Supreme Court challenging a cabinet decision of the previous government to hand over the issuance of e-visas to 2 private companies. On August 2nd last year, the Supreme Court granted an interim injunction permitting the petition to be heard while also directing the Controller General of Immigration and Emigration to continue issuing e-visas under the previous system. However, the petitioners lodged a complaint before the Supreme Court alleging that Controller General of Immigration and Emigration Harsha Ilukpitiya had committed contempt of court by disregarding the interim order. As a result, charges were filed against him under the Contempt of Court Tribunal or Institution Act No. 8 of 2024. When the indictment was read out in open court on 25th September 2025, Ilukpitiya pleaded not guilty. The trial then commenced with Ilukpitiya being placed under remand custody under Supreme Court orders. When proceedings convened on July 1st this year, Ilukpitiya informed the Supreme Court that he would withdraw his earlier plea and admit guilty to the charges. Consequently, the 3-judge bench sentenced the Controller General of Immigration and Emigration Harsha Ilukpitiya to 2 years of imprisonment after being found guilty of contempt of court.
One of the most pressing challenges confronting the tourism sector has been complications arising from the e-visa system introduced in April 2024. Despite our efforts to address the issue within Parliament, the matter remained unresolved, prompting us to pursue legal action. On July 12, 2024, the Committee on Public Finance presented a report. The report called for a forensic audit detailing the losses incurred due to the e-visa irregularities. However, the President is yet to issue a directive compelling the Auditor General to present this report. This raises concerns if the President is providing potential protection for those responsible for the e-visa irregularities. If the President is genuinely committed to combating corruption and supporting the growth of the tourism sector, we urge him to disclose the financial losses through the Auditor General's findings following the completion of the forensic audit.
In the meantime, MP Rauf Hakim expressed views on the matter in Parliament today.
He pointed out to court that the country, over a period of 16 years, for which that contract was entered into with a dubious company, as a result of such a contract, the country would have lost almost $3.4 billion worth of revenue that would have been accrued to the country. This is an abject lesson for public officials who carry out the orders of their superiors without looking at the implications for them when it comes to issues of fraud. It was pointed out to court that the deliberate delay would have cost a further 800 million loss to the government by deliberately delaying to implement the interim order.
Following his verdict, Immigration and Emigration Controller Harsha Ilukpitiya was escorted by prison officers to the Valikara prison where he is expected to serve his 2-year sentence.
Welcome back. Police have identified that the 705 kilogram drug consignment valued at 9.8 billion rupees uncovered in Tangol was sent from abroad by a figure known by alias Una Kurwe Shanta. Meanwhile, post-mortem results revealed that 2 individuals found dead in the house where the drugs were discovered, along with trafficker Una Kurwe Tusita, had high levels of methamphetamine in their systems.
In a record-breaking operation, police recovered over 705 kilograms of narcotics, including crystal methamphetamine and heroin, following the mysterious deaths of 2 youths at a house in Sinimodara, Tangol. The drugs, valued at nearly 9.9 billion rupees, were hidden within 3 lorries. The unprecedented bust goes down as the largest land-based drug seizure in the country within a single day. Officers first discovered 6.97 kilograms of crystal methamphetamine near the Sinimodara residence. Further searches uncovered 168.6 3.69 kilograms of heroin and 319.22 kilograms of crystal methamphetamine in another lorry on the same property, while a lorry packed with watermelons in Godalavela contained 115.72 kilograms of heroin and 94.57 kilograms of crystal methamphetamine. Investigations indicate that the narcotics were imported from abroad by a trafficker identified as Unakurwe Shantha. Police reports suggest the narcotics were offloaded from two vessels onto the Kudavalla, Mavalla beach and transported inland over 2 trips to Sinimodara and Godalavela. At the Sinimodara house, the 3 deceased individuals had consumed alcohol and the narcotics, with post-mortem examinations revealing high concentrations of crystal methamphetamine and other illicit drugs in their bodies. 3 lorry owners were arrested in Mount Lavinia, Alpitia and Mitiagoda. One suspect, a known associate of Shantha, had previously been convicted on 4 drug-related charges and was found in possession of 11.14 grams of heroin. The 3 were remanded by the Tangol magistrate until September 29th.
Heroin win-win machine.
We recovered 284 kilograms of heroin and 420 kilograms of crystal methamphetamine during the investigations, bringing the total narcotics seized to 705 kilograms. We are carrying out a special investigation regarding the owner of the land in question. So far, we have apprehended a motorcycle and 3 lorries connected to the case. This network is extensive. Investigations are revealing the involvement of certain members of the security forces and politicians. You just need to observe the situation with trust. There's no need to panic. Further political involvement will be revealed as the investigations continue. Many arrests are being made as part of this ongoing investigation. In related developments, residents in Tangol staged a protest amid heavy rain, demanding action against rising drug and underworld activities in the Hambantota district.
All leave for Ceylon Electricity Board employees has been suspended with immediate effect until further notice. Speaking at today's cabinet briefing, cabinet spokesperson Dr. Nalinda Jyotis assured that the country will be protected against any future electricity failures.
The trade unions affiliated with the Ceylon Electricity Board commenced a strike action at midnight on September 4th in opposition to the proposed restructuring of the state electricity supplier. In response, President Anura Dissanayake issued an extraordinary gazette declaring all electricity supply-related services as essential. Consequently, the CEB administration announced the immediate suspension of all employee leave until further notice. The trade unions voiced their concerns regarding this development earlier today.
ජයලාල් මහත් එතුමා මේ විදුලි සේවකයෙක්ට කරපු තර්ජනය මරන්නත් පුළුවන් මැරෙන්නත් පුළුවන් ඒ වගේම එතුමා ඒ විදුලි සේවකයාගේ ගෙදර ඉන්න විරින්දට දරුවන්ට බබා කියන පරිසං වෙලා ඉන්න කියලා. ඇයි එමතුමා මෙවැනි දෙයක් වෙන්නේ මේ නගරාධිපති කෙනෙක් නේ.
ඔබ දැක්කා මේ
The sector would face a crisis if the restructuring process is not continued. It is therefore essential that restructuring goes ahead. Previous regimes attempted privatization by removing 50% of employees. This government, however, intends to establish 4 separate state-owned entities. The government assured that the country will not face another electricity failure in the future.
Leader of the Sarvajana Balaya, MP Dilith Jayveer asserts that Sri Lanka's entrepreneurial journey requires the contributions of all communities. He made this claim during an event held in commemoration of World Sign Language Day.
An event to commemorate International Sign Language Day, which falls on the 23rd of September annually, was held at the Sarvajana Balaya headquarters today under the patronage of party leader MP Dilith Jayveer. This is an honest, genuine and pure organization. It can be politicized. However, that is not our intention. We want to enhance awareness of sign language translation within society. The 500,000 strong hearing and speech impaired community is an essential part of the dialogue of motivating Sri Lanka through entrepreneurship. Therefore, sign language is necessary in transmitting the message of entrepreneurship. Therefore, we request that all Sri Lankans view the 500,000 strong community which requires sign language translation in a positive light.
Welcome back. Sri Lanka's export sector has shown strong growth and resilience in 2025, recording total earnings of $11.55 billion from January to August this year, a 6.61% increase over the same period in 2024. According to the Export Development Board, in August alone, total exports, including goods and services, reached $1.6 billion, marking a 2.57% year-on-year rise. Merchandise exports rose 5.13% in August to $1.29 billion, while services exports driven by ICT, construction and logistics were estimated at $312.75 million, up 5.57% for the year. The government will call for expressions of interest from investors for the proposed caustic soda and chlorine manufacturing factory in Paranthan. The factory is proposed to be constructed on a 30-acre plot of land belonging to the Paranthan Chemicals Company Limited. The project, which will be implemented as a public-private partnership, is estimated to generate 95 direct and 2,000 indirect employment opportunities. The relevant proposal was approved by the Cabinet of Ministers. Sri Lanka today signed an €8 million grant agreement with the European Union to launch a major initiative supporting biodiversity conservation and solid waste management. The project, developed by the Ministries of Public Administration, Environment and Finance, aims to restore degraded ecosystems, promote sustainable land use and improve waste systems for better environmental protection and public health. Signed by Finance Secretary Dr. Harshana Surya Peruma and EU Ambassador Carmen Moreno, the initiative supports the government's national policy statement and aligns with the EU's Global Gateway Strategy. Ambassador Moreno said the project will help protect Sri Lanka's biodiversity, enhance waste management and attract EU expertise and investment. The Finance Ministry called the grant a crucial step toward a greener, more resilient economy. That's all for tonight from First at 9. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.